Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Today we'll start a new writer. Her name is George Eliot, and she wrote The Mill on the Floss. So it is a novel, and The Mill on the Floss. And George Eliot is a novelist. She is a novelist. She is a British novelist. So her real name is Mary Ann Evans, and her pen name is George Eliot. So very few people know about her real name. I mean, Mary Ann Evans or Marian. So she is known. She was known. She is known, and she will be known as George Eliot. He was a novelist, poet, journalist, translator, and a leading writer of Victorian era. Victorian era mean the era of Queen Victoria, and it was a new time, with new kinds of writing after Romanticism. So she wrote so many novels which were and which are so much very much famous in the field of novels. So we will discuss our third novel, our fourth novel, The Mill on the Floss. So the story is related about that there is a mill on the river, and there is a story of a brother and sister, and how they live, and how a brother behave with a sister. So the whole story surrounding of, you can say, this is the autobiographical story of George Eliot. And she worked on the realism and psychological insight. So what is psychological insight or psychological fiction? In literature, it is something that is existent in the human being, that what kind of thinking is going on in the mind of a human being. So that is known psychological realism. Psychological realism means that something we adopt from the society, something we get from the society, and it is going on in the shape of thinking. You can say that which is known as their dreaming, and it is also known as stream of consciousness. There is a little bit difference between psychological realism and stream of consciousness. So what is stream of consciousness? Stream of consciousness mean that the stream of thinking, the chain of thinking, that there is a chain that which is going on, chain of thinking which is going on in the mind of someone. So that is known as a stream of consciousness. So what is realism? Realism mean that the observation of the real thing which is existed in simple word, that what kind of thing we can see and we can feel, that is known as realism. So psychological realism is a genre which is interior characterization. Interior mean within the human body, within the thinking or the motivation of human being, that is related to the emotion, spiritual, mental lives of the characters. That's something which is going on in the emotion and the mental and the spirits of the human being. So that is known as psychological realism. And George Eliot works on the psychological realism. Why? Because she a little bit suffered from the society, from the people, and it was the society still that male dominant society, and she was fed up of such kind of society, and she was a very liberal person, and she didn't follow strictly Christianity, and that's why she faced a lot of problem in her life. George Eliot, her real name was Mary Ann Evans. She was born in England, and she was the third daughter of Robert Evans and Christiana Evans. Christiana Evans was her mother, and her the profession of her brother was a mill owner. So that's why I told you that there is some autobiographical elements in this novel, and she was shortened. I mean, her name was shortened as Mary Ann Evans, and she was called in her society Marian. And she has three siblings: Isaac, Tracy, Isaac, and twin who died a few days after their birth in March 1821. She has also a step brother and step sister from her father, but not from her mother. And at the very start, she went to a school which was based on the Christianity, and her parents supposed to get some knowledge regarding their religion, and she went to a school which were based on the Christianity, and it was known as evangelical. And after that, at the age of 16, she had a very little formal education. Means she didn't go for formal education to institutes. Why? Because her parents focus on her religious education. I mean, on education about Christian. There is a touch of Greek literature in her novels, and Christopher Stray has observed that George Eliot novels draws heavily on Greek literature. In 1836, her mother died, and then she returned to home, and she acted as a housekeeper, and she continued. But after that, her brother Isaac married and took her family at his home, and after that, her father and she moved to somewhere else from that home. George Eliot had some doubt regarding the religion, and she had so many questions, very hard, very tough questions regarding the religion, but she couldn't speak about that. And after that, she spoke, but she was targeted by the religious people of the society, and she was known as a liberal and agnostic theologies, and she was suffered a lot in the result of her rebel thoughts and ideas. So it was the time that the writing of women was criticized by some people, and an essay was written about these silly novels by lady novelist, and it was her criticism on the novels of them. At that time, that George Eliot liked the realism, that what kind of writing she had, so she liked the criticism from the people to know how she wrote. Marriage to John Cross ended. Her life was a little bit very tough, because there were some scandals about the George Eliot and Lewis, and that some people said that she was married to Lewis. Some people said that no, but it affected the life of George Eliot. After that, she married in 1880. She married to John Walter Cross. That's why she changed her name as Mary Ann Cross. While the marriage courted some controversy due to the difference in ages, it pleased her brother Isaac, who had broken off relations with her when she had begun to live with Lewis, and now sent congratulations. So while the couple were honeymooning in Venice, Cross, the Fifth Depression, jumped from the hotel balcony and the Grand Canal. He survived, and newlyweds returned to England. They moved to a new house in Chelsea, but Eliot fell ill with a throat infection and coupled with the kidney disease. And with that, she had been afflicted for several years, led to her death on 22nd December 1880 at the age of 60. She was not buried in the Westminster Abbey because she was a person which was known as that she was against religious thoughts, and she had some doubt regarding the Christianity, so that's why she was buried in Highgate Cemetery.